Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome. Monday night, 8 p.m. can only mean one thing. The Online Darts Live Land returns with me, Phil Bars, Jack Gerwyn, and Dan Simpson here to keep you company for the next couple of hours, talking all things darts. Gentlemen, good evening.
Hello there.
Right.
How are we?
I'm as well as anybody can be in a Premier and in Bolton. I'm sure there's plenty of darts players can sympathise with how it feels to be stuck in a Premier and in Bolton. But no, I'm all right. The Wi-Fi is holding up for now. Can't make any promises. It's been a bit.
We're only a minute in.
I was going to say it's been a little bit sketchy. Hopefully it holds up. But I'd say all is well. The restaurant is a harvester, so I am as full as one can be. Having been to the harvester for me tea. Took advantage of the salad bar. Crouton bar.
We like a harvester, but they've scrapped their set menu, which is like 2 or 3 courses for whatever. So we've stopped bothering going.
That.
Yeah,
I noticed that.
That was it. Like, other than that, you're spending top dollar on food that isn't top dollar. I'm like, if it's the set menu and you get your salad bar, which for me, I'll be honest, is just bread rolls and pasta, then it's fine. But actually, without it, I'm like, I ain't paying 25 quid for a dinner there when I can go and get the same thing from a pub for £13.50.
Now, I would recommend the. I had the belly pork and chorizo skewers. All right, decent, not bad. Enjoyed the enjoyed a bit of a salad bar. Pint of what did I have? Brewdog Wingman. It was all right. Yeah, good. Not bad.
Nice. Let's say hello to the chat room. It is rammed already. Dell is in. Bob, living on the edge. How we doing, Chris? Rob is in. Malachi, Shelty, Jonathan, Nicholas, Andrew. How we doing? Adam, Kieran, Daniel, Ron. I tell you what, it's rammed. Ricky is in. Elke is in. Owen, Cam, Dave from New Zealand. How we doing? Arnie is in. James. Chris says nobody deserves to be in Bolton. Life can be cruel. Bob says let's go Bunting mental. Hazzy is in. Lendl is in. I tell you what, it's John. It's rammed. Loving that.
Busy old night already, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good. Look again. Never a dull moment in darts. Let's start with the World Series. Let's go to Bahrain first of all. First of all, your overall thoughts of the event as a whole, and has it grown enough for you boys?
Waste of fucking time.
That didn't take long, did it? I mean, but would you agree that it was a better watch in terms of the quality of darts and what it looked like in the event than last year?
100%.
They still had a F1 car there. The fans are still pretty similar. And actually, if anything, it showed maybe they are watching more darts than elsewhere. Because the fuckers were whistling. How was whistling got to Bahrain, for fuck's sake?
But I do think that it was like, yes, you can have your view on whether or not it should even exist in the calendar. And if it does exist in the calendar, that it probably shouldn't exist on those dates. But if the question is, was it better this year than last year? I think you're hard pushed to say it wasn't. I think the standard was better. The crowd was certainly a more, whistling aside, but they were more of a darts crowd than we've seen there before, I think.
Yeah, and no, look, the Saturday was sold out. The Friday looked considerably better fans-wise on TV. So it shows that something is working. Growth is there. Look, do I like the date of it? No. But from where it was year one to the third year, it has certainly grown as a spectacle to where it was. Then that's what we measure things on in terms of World Series growth. Has it got bigger? Has it got better? And it ticks those boxes.
Is it doing its job, which is its supposed job, to raise the profile of darts in that part of the world? And I think you're hard pushed to say it's not doing that. Like, you can disagree with its place in the calendar and everything else, but I do think it's one of the few events that is doing that core job that we were told that they were for at the beginning, to raise the profile of darts in that part of the world, to expose people to the sport, to give people an opportunity to experience what it's like to go to the darts. It seems to be doing its job arguably better than quite a few other events, if that's the metrics that you want to measure them by.
I agree. I'm with you. That we can touch on whether it should be there or whether it shouldn't be there is another thing. But overall, I agree. I thought it worked. How are we doing, Will? Hope Vegas is good. I'm going to buzz you at some point this week. Need to pick your brain on some bits. But yeah, look, overall, I thought it was good. Like after night one, there are question marks around Rob Cross because he was less than ordinary in the Worlds, and he was awful on Thursday.
Bobbins.
Awful.
Bobby Bobbins. It was, and I understand there's been an awful lot of darts going on. He's travelled. He's gone to the other side of the boat. To turn up after, with the pomp and circumstance that goes into that event, and chucking, what did he chuck, an 86? I can't see very much today. I normally have a full range of screens in front of me, and I'm very limited in this Premier end. But was it 86, mid-80s average, wasn't it, that he chucked?
86.3.
There we go. Yeah. Bang average, I'm afraid. And unfortunately, like, let's be honest, 86.3 would have got the job done in a good few of these games. But there was a number of qualifiers that will probably feel unfortunate to have not drawn Rob Cross and got, because they would have bashed him up at, average it playing like that. And he probably got the worst draw in terms of someone with a bit of confidence behind them that we know can throw a dart, and did very well against him and deservedly got the win.
Yeah. Dan, you've got a fan there.
You're reading this all completely wrong, by the way. I think Rob Cross has played it perfectly. He's been paid a fortune to fuck off to Bahrain for 5 days, probably had the fewest media requirements of anybody out there, and then gets another day off while everyone else has to play again. Job fucking done. Well done, pal. You do that again.
I'm not convinced on that. I just think
I was the cynic. That's my job.
Anyway, Dal says, Dan, can you give my wife a wave, please? So you got a fan club now.
Give her two. Not a problem.
It was not great from Rob Cross. I tell you though, the game for me of the first round as a complete contest was Bunting against Nitin Kumar. Nitin Kumar was sensational, and that 6-2 doesn't do justice to how well Nitin Kumar played.
No, and that's where Nitin was unfortunate to bump in to Stephen Bunting in that mood, because that would have won a few games this weekend. It's as good as I think we've seen him play on TV. It shows the game's there, but not only is the game there because anyone can chuck a game in when it doesn't matter. At home and on the practice board or down the local pub with their mates, these lads can all throw a game in. But I thought it was a really big step for him to play like that in that environment on the TV in front of a big crowd against one of the best players in the world. I thought it was really, I thought it was really good. Yeah,
no, I agree that we'll come on to Bunting more in a minute. But other standout performances, I thought Gerwyn Price is playing himself into some form. Obviously, beating Luke in the manner that he did, and all of a sudden, the Iceman just seems to have found the love for the sport again.
There were glimpses of the form last year, but it seemed to be in the first round and not the second round of every single tournament he played in. Like, if he gets his head on, he always has been and always will be an incredibly dangerous operator. But there's still just that distrust in him that he'll be able to sustain this for a while without something going wrong.
It's a lot easier to love the game if you're chucking 115 average, isn't it? Like, it's easier to enjoy playing darts if you're throwing 115 average. It's when you turn up and chuck an 87, 88, 89 and get bashed up 6-0, 6-1 that it becomes much harder to enjoy it. It will be interesting to see how he takes this forward, certainly into the next 2 months. There's a lot of darts for him in the next 2 months, and it's not all going to go his way. Like, he is not, I mean, he's probably not going to be able to sustain what we saw the other night, or, week in, week out. There's going to be tournaments coming up where he's going to have to back up those performances with 3, 4, 5 performances in a couple of days if he's going to really achieve what many expect him to and what he, expects himself to. And the danger is that if he doesn't back this up, it just becomes a bit of a blip, and it continues in this peak and trough, which is a bit inexplicable. He turns up, chucks 115, up and down, up and down. Time will tell.
There is one positive to the Gerwyn Price story at the minute. He's either let someone else manage his social media accounts for him, or he's been on a training course. Because he's behaving a bit on that Instagram story, saying the right things. Oh, I'd love to be back in the Premier League. That was a few weeks ago. Then he gave us an update on his points, tried something new, didn't work. Going back to the old ones tomorrow. Watch me bash someone up. That's how it should be done. That's how easy it is to play the game.
So I can tell you that he hasn't given it to someone else. Funny enough, on those points, I dropped him a message afterwards, because I actually, those longer points, I actually thought he played well with them, to be fair. I liked them. I just messaged him, "Hi mate, well done on the result. Love the longer points tonight." He replied, "I didn't, laugh out loud, crying face. I gave them away straight after, laugh, laugh."
Well, I mean, but we didn't see, we saw him get better once he got rid of them, didn't we? All of a sudden he tips up and chucks in a monster of a game. But maybe that's, again, it's so difficult, because it's such an individual sport, and such a sport that relies on feel and comfort, certainly with a piece of equipment, that sometimes it can be a good thing for him to change it, not feel comfortable. And then when he gets back to what he knows best, the points he's familiar with, the setup that he's used to see that huge increase in level might have just reaffirmed what he knew all along, which is really his setup was fine, and that his setup's been fine for quite a long time, and that it's more him than the setup that when it peaks and drops. And then, but that might have been exactly what he needed to happen to reassure him of that, to come back, put those to one side, come back with Old Faithfuls and chuck them and do that. And because it wasn't, the 115 was monstrous, like beating Littler, but then, he played well. It wasn't quite the same against Peter Wright, was it? But he did play very well and won the game convincingly. He didn't. It wasn't that Peter had a stinker. Gerwyn played well again to back it up.
I'm sure I saw something similar recently about Phil Taylor, that in the past, if practice just wasn't going for him, he'd just go and pick up a different set for 5 minutes, just to change the way he's thinking, change the way he's got to throw, and then go back to his other ones to reignite again. Because sometimes you get caught up in little micro adjustments in your throw and your grip that you don't even realise are going on. But then when you pick them up freshly, 5, 10, 15 minutes later, you're back to where they should be, and you're like, oh yeah, that's where it is. That's the sweet spot. And maybe that change of points just did that for Gezi over the weekend.
Yeah. Evening, Stu. Glad to have you in. Dan, people are loving your oversized shirt look today. You're getting a lot of love.
I've been in a suit all day. I mean, I'm at work. That's why I'm traveling. I'm working away for a few days. So I've had a suit on all day. I've hung my shirt and tie up and hoid some on to walk to the harvester over the road. I didn't quite expect that reaction. I'll take it.
Spells from Luke Humphries as well, that I thought he looked like the pressure had been released. That pressure of defending everything, defending the World Championships, I thought he looked good.
First round in particular, easy to look good when there's not much coming back at you, I suppose, in that sense. But actually, to maintain that level from him was superb, to go out there and put on a show. I think there was a freedom to him, but also there's still a little bit of a stiffness to his action that he seems to have locked on a little bit. So he certainly freed him up to play nicely.
I expected more, if I'm honest. And I know that sounds a little bit silly because of the levels at which he threw at. I said it on the show a couple of weeks ago, I expected him to come out absolutely flying in Bahrain. I expected him pissed off and angry about going out of the Worlds at the stage in which he did, with the expectation, yes, he wasn't the tournament favourite, but in his own head he must have been. Like, in his own head, he must have thought, I am the favourite, I'm the best player in the world. And I think that I expected him to come out and do an absolute job on this tournament, if I'm honest. And I thought it was a bit concerning that, yes, he played well in the opening round, but he played well against absolutely nothing. He did well against Nathan, but I expected him to dig in and get up for it against Bunting. And where I thought he'd find something, it didn't quite come. And I just expected him to have that gear change, that level. And I expected that a few weeks ago, and I just didn't see it.
Maybe. I think there's also an element that this tournament means bugger all. So while sending a message is quite key in Den Bosch, when the level of competition steps up just that little bit, certainly that's one that he might look to target that little bit more. We don't know how much darts he's played in the last couple of weeks. In practice, yes, most of them will have as well. But actually, given that there is now a more significant Masters in a couple of weeks, and the UK Open and the Premier League starting, I don't think going gun-ho into Bahrain was the move. Yes, send a message. I thought his first couple of performances were solid, but he's done enough. He's worked his way in. He's not overdone the work over the weekend. Yeah, right, a title's always nice, but I think his build-up to the next couple of weeks is key. And actually, if you look at Luke for the last couple of 2 or 3 years now, he's one that's got his peak right. He's gone and got himself ready for the back ends of the year, really importantly. He did an awful lot of work last year. All right, Littler took a lot of the strain in the media as well, but Humphries still was an incredible ambassador and will remain that as world number one as well. There's still going to be attention on him for that reason. As Phil gets his food delivered or something.
No, of all people, jar ringing.
Oh.
You're an idiot.
Someone should know.
Yeah, I'm not sure this is the one that I expected Luke to go gun-ho for. If he hasn't picked up a title in, I don't know, say by the end of March, then maybe I'd be a little bit worried that response isn't coming. But look, there's a lot of darts to be played between now and the end of May, which is only happens for the Premier League players. And I think if he goes and sends a message on the Pro Tour, because get them out of the way, get enough money built into that so that he could just focus on playing in the second round of the Euro Tours like they are and make sure that he's at Minehead and managing his schedule nice and early. They're the ones to put the effort in for me.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I've started the question about Gary's injury. We'll answer that a little bit later once we've done this. Look, I thought Luke, first time as world champion, he's not done a lot wrong. He's played okay. He's run into a very good performance to beat him. But now that first time is out the way. He's used to being called the world champion now. I think that's important to get that out of the way because everyone wants to hear it. You want to hear it as well. Now that's been done, it becomes the norm for a year.
Yeah. Yes and no. I sort of agree with the crowd on that. Not the crowd, the chat room on that a bit earlier. And I think Dan might be going down the same way. Like, getting that out of the way is good, but also I think the first time you hear it, you want it to be special. That event ain't special enough for me to warrant, yeah, right, this is what's going to stick now.
Yeah, but is any of them early on? The Masters in Milton Keynes, is that special enough?
Possibly not.
There isn't a massive tournament to do it in that way. So for me,
I don't think it's that. I mean, maybe I'm being naive. I don't think it will have had that much of, or if any, effect on him being announced in such a way. Let's be brutally honest. Like, he's been announced in a very, very positive manner since we very started seeing him on television. He's been getting announced as the Premier League champion for the last however long.
He openly spoke about this, was excited to hear John McDonnell introduce him as the champion of the world.
I think anyone, when you pick it up for the first time, but
that's what
I think the novelty of that will wear off very quickly for someone who has done as much as he has in a very early stage of his career and is going to go on to do even more.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. It will wear off, but like for the first time, he was desperate to hear it.
I'm not sure that changes anything on the stage. Like I'm not sure. I think if you think of what it's difficult in it, because if you think of what he's achieved and the pressure that's been on him at different moments, and I'm not sure that changes anything at all on the stage. I just think, I mean, he's played exceptionally well. Like 99% of the time, you are going to win a match at the Bahrain Darts Masters, averaging over 105. He's just happened to bump in on a short format to someone averaging 115. Bahrain chucking 9 darters in, you're going to struggle. And that's not 1 9 darter. That's chucking him in on every other leg. Like, you're going to struggle against 115 average on a short format. It is what it is. I don't think, from anyone that knows darts and understands it, he doesn't come out of it any less than he went into it. I don't think.
I don't know. Agreed. Well, there's questions about Holland we'll answer coming up. Before we sort of have a look at Stephen Bunting, give him the credit he deserves, your thoughts on the local Asian players, whatever we're calling them, invites? I thought Kumar was the standout, but I want a little bit more now from Zong. We know there's a player there waiting for him to find that next one. Alagan, we know there's a player there, but I'm wanting more. Do you know what I mean?
I thought Zhong played really nicely, but looking at his numbers, it wasn't as great as it perhaps felt at the time. He seemed to have a lot of clumps of 2 treble visits and then not back it up with a great deal more. I get what you're saying. I guess it's difficult. We had this conversation an awful lot over the World Championships, seeing a lot of the Asian players over the last couple of years. And actually, we've had this issue the last couple of years as well. But the Asian tour is doing all right. There's a lot of soft tip darts we played whilst we're over there as well. And the financial implications of having a crack at Q score and then setting yourself up here for 2 years is proving to be quite difficult for a number of these players. But a lot of them are at the point now where the only way to go up an extra gear is to get onto the Pro Tour and compete against this level week in, week out.
Well,
and I'm not sure how we find a happy medium, because they're not all going to grow at that level enough to suddenly go, well, suddenly we've got 12 world-class players in Asia that are ready to compete with the 12 best players in the world. They're going to push each other to a level, but there is still a bridge to gap with that.
I think Lawrence Alagan is probably an example of where that hasn't taken place. Like, we keep hearing people talk of Lawrence Alagan, and that we know there's a player in there, and when we see him get to another level, like, he's 46. And with the greatest of respect, like, where's he got to know? At what point, if he's not done it by 46, when is he? Like, he has probably, in all honesty, missed that boat of being able to get to Europe and have a couple of years at competitive, high-level darts, because what they're not able to take advantage of is what we'll end up coming to it and talking to it, is things like, the challenge tour, of being able to get some really, really competitive sessions regularly with other players at a really high level or at a higher level than you, and using that to push yourself on, develop your game, practice with different people. And that's just not available to them. I think Ilagan, it's sort of bypassed him a little bit. It will be interesting to see if other players in Asia will look to him and think, I don't want to end up like that. I don't want to end up being 46, having not been able to bridge that gap. And then it's what people are either able to or what they're prepared to risk in terms of their finances and stability of their home life and everything else, in committing to put themselves around higher level competitive darts for a period of time to see if they can push on.
Alexis Toilo.
God.
I've got a couple of bits here. Forget the pace. Oh my God, it's a tough watch, right? But one that I want to get Gob your point on as a referee, and then a wider point as well. Chalk.
I don't know the rules.
Chalk. Now, Simon Whitlock and others have been criticised for points damaging the board and defacing the board. does that chalk not doesn't damage it, but it defaces it and puts your opponent off? Because it's not just a little. At times, that board was splattered in chalk.
It's an additional target, isn't it?
I'm not.
There's no rules against it. Like,
is there not? Like, I don't know.
Like, the one that is possibly even worse to watch than that is Keith Deller. He loves a bit of fucking chalk, and he leaves it looking worse than a 1960s fucking pie. Like, let's be honest, it looks horrific.
Oh, I'm with you. I said the same about him at seniors.
Is there no sort of level to which? And I'm asking you just because you around that a lot more than I am, or that I ever will. In terms of like brushing the board down, or is there a point at which, as a referee, you'd see the board and think, shit, like I better do something here, and look for something to wipe it down, dust it off, because it might not be that it's against the rules and the player can do that, but is there a point to which you'd think it's a bit excessive? I'm going to have to try and sort this out.
I mean, if I get players that throw with chalk at the Super Series, the minute they're off stage and they cut to the averages, I'm rubbing the chalk off for the next game the best I can. Like, I don't particularly want it there or whatever. It is a bit of a distraction, but like I said, it's not against the rules, so there isn't really a great deal you can do about it. I can't stop the game mid-game and go, oh, I'm just going to clean that off you. It's not like the white ball in snooker. Like, that isn't a thing. Like, I sort of just have to wait to the end of the game to clean it up whenever I see it.
Where are we on the 400 practice darts before he actually gets to the hockey and then has another few?
I mean, it's not for me. It's not for me. And I would urge people to consider this when they invite him to events such as this, because I just think, no, it's not. I mean, fine, if you're doing that in your game that you play somewhere, whatever, you'll piss a few people off. But as soon as you put that on the telly, you're just pissing loads more people off now. It's pissing off more people than ever before. It's a tough watch, isn't it? It's difficult to. I mean, I've not seen anyone say anything positive about it.
No.
I said one thing positive about it on Twitter, and it's a fucking tough watch. And to be honest, if it was anybody else, I'd probably be sat here calling it out. But what I do admire is the absolute level of shithousery to just keep doing it and not care one little bit. Like, there is no rule. And look, if this was Dimmy or someone, they'd be getting.
That's what I'm saying. If this was Dimitri doing this, you'd be hanging him out to dry right now.
And he still gets ruining my UK Open last year. But
I don't think that's true, because I think it's different, because it's different, the fact that he does it all the time, and that's his process and that's what he does. He's not adapting that in order to shithouse his opponent or the crowd or anybody else, which is what we've seen other people do. He's not doing it to shithouse somebody else. That's just his system, process, method, whatever. It's a tough watch, but I don't think there's anything in that's what we've seen. There's no gamesmanship in it.
Yeah.
I love this.
Like Mendel Lawrence, it took him 3 steps to get to the hockey, and he'd stop at every single one and pause and set himself go. Even fucking Gilding. People absolutely adore Andrew Gilding, but he has one of the most convoluted setups to the dartboard you've ever seen in your life.
I find that much more watchable. There's almost something quite therapeutic. I think it's that step, that slide to the left.
It's like a cha-cha slide.
Yeah,
to the left.
I genuinely think there's almost something rhythmic about it that makes it more watchable, because it's elongated. It's a longer process of approaching the hockey and making a throw, but it's incredibly rhythmic. It's not like he's having 2 or 3 steps backwards and forwards. It's one step, or it's not like that step and then he's not quite in the right place and he adjusts a bit and back a bit. It's very in, across, together, that. And I don't find that particularly offensive, really.
Love this one. Mace. Scott Giblin has a paintbrush. I'm a fan of that.
That's not in your darting referee little box of tricks, Scott. A paintbrush.
So you have to get yourself down home base.
Do you know what? I have got on order, or will be ordering very, very soon. A little manicure set.
Come again?
Nail clippers, little scissors, and some tweezers.
Okay.
Because when the threads start coming out the dartboard and somebody's got grippy points, the best thing for them, nail clippers, just clip them off. Instead of pulling them out with tweezers. Tweezers are for the really little bits, but for the big long ones that are really stubborn, just nail clip them.
Right, now it's time to give Stephen Bunting the praise he deserves. How good was the bullet? It's another TV title. Where you class that is entirely up to you, but did he win a tournament on TV? Yes, so it's a TV title.
I think it's the perfect time for him to go and win a title, isn't it? He's been possibly a little short in that category in the past for a player of his caliber, but back in the Premier League, back playing lovely darts, and it sends a very, very important message to the rest of them. Yes, it's a World Series. Yes, I've understated it for the likes of Rob Cross and Luke Humphries a little bit earlier on. But winning against that group of peers for somebody like Bunting, who's going back into the Premier League for the first time in a long time, into the Lions' Den, into a level of competition against the top boys that actually his head-to-head isn't great in the majority of those. His floor record's been really good, but if you look back on TV, Bunting tends to beat the players he should beat and struggle to beat the players that are slightly above him. He's just gone and got one up on them 3 weeks before the travelling circus gets underway, and that's really important for a player like Stephen Bunting. It
was very, very consistent as well. And when he wasn't consistent, he was exceptional. Like it was very consistent. He didn't really peak and trough, other than he found a very high level and then lifted it a bit. And then when it dropped, he just dropped back to that. You know, he hit that 115 against Dobie. And then after that, it was back to 99, 99. You know, it was back to those sort of 100 averages.
Where we've done 95, 111, 99, 99.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of, you know, how often do we see, and especially when it's, and we see it on the World Series, and we see it when people have travelled and everything else, is that we see someone turn up and chuck something monstrous, and then we see a bang average performance after, and it peaks and it troughs. And the key to Stephen is just to keep the variation in that level as narrow as it, you know, to keep that level up there around that ton, and then just peak up from it and try to not drop off. He's a dangerous player, isn't he? Like when he's on it, he's so good and so dangerous.
Oh, he's a huge danger this year. The way this is carrying on,
he plays without fear as well a lot of the time. And I think, yes, it's maybe a little bit different, and it'd be interesting to see over the course of that Premier League season how, you know, it's easy for the pressure to come on when you are playing, you know, a big event. It's a quarter final at a match play, or it's a quarter final at the World. When you are playing week in, week out, and you become a little bit fearless, as he probably will, because he won't fear, I don't think, those matches, or because it just becomes such a churn of sometimes you win, sometimes you lost, especially with this Premier League format where you potentially play a couple of times a night, you win one, you lose one, you're winning more games than you generally would have opportunities to in the old format. I think he'll play without fear, and I think he'll be a massive danger.
The trophy.
I think the old format would have suited Bunting a bit more. I'm not sure about this playing multiple times a night, because I still think there is that, not a mental block, but there is still an element of actually he might have to run through a Humphries, a Van Gerwen and a Price on the same night. And whilst we know he's got the level, I think he sometimes hits a bit of a mental block in that situation. Whereas actually, if it's one game a night, he can get himself up for it, maybe sneak a point here or there in the old format where he could draw as well. I think that would have suited him a lot more.
I think it's interesting. Before we move on, the trophy, after 3 years of it, fan or not? Because social media was very split.
I am a fan of it, because what's not to be a fan of? Like, I'll tell you what I don't like in sport is when we see loads of trophies that all look the same. And it is difficult with a trophy to not have them look similar to other trophies. And there's only so many things you can do. There's only so many shapes of things that you can put onto a little wooden plaque. if you're going to be different, you might as well be properly different, mightn't you? You might as well be like what I do think about it is it's very distinctive. Everybody knows what it is. When they come around your house and see it on the coffee table or on the bookcase or something, or I don't know, wherever else. I don't know where you'd put that in. I don't know where you'd put it in your house. I'm not sure where I'd put it in mine. Downstairs, lav probably. But
the Harry Potter theme, that would look well out of place. There was no golden palm tree in Harry Potter.
Yeah, it's magical at least. Magical palm tree.
Rob, you say that he couldn't sleep with it. Judging by all their Instagrams, I think that there must have been a chartered plane or something like that, because literally the Instagram pictures from them all, they literally left the venue, got on the bus to go to the airport, and they were all on there as well.
It was grinding FIFA 8 hours later, sat at home on TikTok.
Literally, I think they literally left the venue and went straight to the airport.
Straight on the minibus.
Yeah. Ron, you say that. There's a lot. It does matter what trophies look like. Like, I'll say it now. The UK Open trophy is fucking awful. It looks hideous. I get what it is.
Like. For these little individual ones, fine, go and be individual. F1 come up with some of the quirkiest trophies you've got going. Some of the shape of the circuit, some are relevant to the country they're in. Some of them are really cool. Some of them look naff, but you know what they're relevant to. I get it. Relevant, it's different, isn't it? Like the Grand Prix, big slab of glass, cuboid or whatever it is. It's different. You know what trophy it is. You can't match the classics all the time. You're going to run out of trophies like that.
This is it. You run out of shapes. I mean, we saw. Many people probably didn't, but snooker was on at the weekend, the match play snooker, and that's the Paul Hunter Trophy. It's a crystal triangle full of balls. A little bit different to loads of other stuff because it's crystal and it's not metal. It's not a cup, but it's distinctive and it's individual to that tournament. And, really. There are a finite amount of shapes that you can do. I think the most important thing, like Gob says there, is you've got to, or you want it to be able to be identified. If you run an event or that event is your thing, it's precious to you, you want it to be distinctive. You want people to see it and think that's from that event. You can identify it. Whether it's a palm tree or a whatever it is, everybody knows what it is.
No, I get that. A couple of people have asked about Gary. I'll start them and we'll come on to them a bit later on when we do some bits. So I haven't got about them. We have starred them. But yeah, that was the Dutch ones this week. And the change is, that was Bahrain. The change for the Dutch one this coming weekend, Peter Wright is out. Michael van Gerwen comes back in. The other one was, obviously, someone said, why is Western not there? Because they've chose to use the rankings for the...
Oh, now the rankings exist.
Correct.
Now the rankings are very important. Everybody knows that.
Yeah. The rankings have been used to select the invited players for the Benelux side.
Benelux. They insist on continuing with the looks, don't they? They're not knocking that on the head. They're not knocking on the idea that we'll get a Luxembourg breakout player that at some point we can include.
Look, De Decker was invited, but he was on holiday. And again, he was quite critical of that. Anyway, we'll come on to that.
Quite critical of his travel agent.
Yeah. De Decker was invited. Vinstra got the last spot. And we kept getting told about the Premier League that you have to do more. It's not just about the rankings. We want players that can put on a show. With the greatest will in the world, that you can't tell me that picking Richard Vinstra over Wessel Nyman's a good idea. Wessel offered more.
If they are using the rankings, James just made a very good point. Richard Veenstra is in the tournament, who's ranked 47th. Kim Huybrechts is ranked 46th.
And would have given you a bigger spread of Benelux representation. Let's be honest.
Somebody has fed you some horse shit, Philip.
Let's be honest. It is
Somebody
all about,
has fed you some horse shit.
It is all about entertainment.
That was on the press release.
Don't
look at me.
It's all about entertainment. It's all about image. Richard Veenstra is in exclusively on having far, far better hair. That's all all it is. All it comes down to. He's got much, much better hair.
He's got a better publicist.
David, I'm going to put this on the screen because it annoys Gob. Rule number 1.
You can tell him when you see him tomorrow to stick that up his fucking ass.
That's on Friday, Saturday this week. The Dutch Darts Masters from
It's darts to look forward to every week, isn't it? It's good.
100%. That's that one. We're going to go to the Challenge Tour next because obviously for a lot, this is the most important Challenge Tour of the whole year because it sets you off to an absolute flyer. It means that you will have invites to Pro Tours and so on. And she was on the thumbnail and the graphic for a reason. One person stole the show, and that was Beau winning 2 out of 5.
Without a doubt. Certainly the best performer of the lot, wasn't she? Thoroughly deserved spot in the rankings and will find herself now certainly, I mean, it's highly irregular at this stage, isn't it, that we get an event that doesn't have at least
I know at least 2 that aren't at the first Pro Tour.
I was going to say, there's always at least a couple, isn't it? There's always at least a couple.
I know of 2 already that aren't entered. One has had a baby in De Graaf. That's common knowledge. The other one I won't say because I don't know if it is yet. But Jeffrey De Graaf is common knowledge that he's at home because he's had a newborn. So the top 2 will get invites.
I guess the question is, will she accept it?
Surely she'd be foolish not to. It doesn't mean anything. It's a free hit for her.
The level she played at over the weekend is Pro Tour level. She was like 48th in running averages across all of PDC from the weekend. Like if you put her average, her running average from the weekend into every single tour the PDC operated last year, she was like 48.
Yeah, and it's very different going, like we saw last year, we saw from Connor Scott, we saw from Wesley Placia. It's very different going as an invited make up the numbers call up with no pressure, where anything you make is just extra money in your hand. You're not fighting for a ranking, you're not fighting for a tour card. It's a free hit. I don't know why somebody wouldn't go given the opportunity, unless we've seen it sometimes with the European players where they simply the logistics doesn't make it viable. But yeah, I think it'd be a no-brainer. I think it'd be very interesting to see what she can do because the level we saw her play out the other day was Pro Tour level, properly.
100%. It was the manner of the performances were exceptional. And this is, look, we've been saying this for how long, that we wanted to see Beau go and try. She tried Q School, incredible. She's gone to the first Challenge Tour, tried, been sensational. So the next step is
success on the Dev Tour last year. Look, let's not forget she still is incredibly young. She's got a lot of time ahead of her, and I'm glad that the decision has been made to have gone to Q School, given it a go, fallen just short, not miles short, just short, and then gone to the Challenge Tour and sent an absolute statement. And she's right back in a position where absolutely nobody wants to play her at all. Because she's frighteningly good. There's still the hesitation amongst some players in the game that are petrified of losing to a woman still. She's in the perfect storm right now because, look, getting a tour card would have been massive and it would have done brilliant for the game. And with Luke Littler taking us to new heights, a woman on the full-time Pro Tour would have been even more significant than when Lisa got it the first time. And that's no disrespect to Lisa, but the game's in a completely different place. What we now 8 years on from Lisa's tour card? Can't be far away from that. Like, a lot has happened in that time. Beau adding that mix would have been fine, but she would have also been swallowed up a little bit. Now, Beau still gets to go and defend her World Championship title, unless she chooses Ali Pali next year. She's number 1 on the Challenge Tour by some distance, so his first choice top-up for the Pro Tours. She can still go and play in the Women's Series. She's not going to jump into the top 64 of the world rankings anytime soon, so that means she can still play on the Development Tour. She can still play in the ADC Women's Series if she wishes to. She can still play on the Super Series if she wishes to. Beau Greaves can play more darts next year than anybody else on the planet.
100%.
And there's a bloody good chance she wins an awful lot of money doing so if that's what she wants to do.
Well, I just had a quick Scoobies at roughly what would she. Like, I know this is jumping ahead quite considerably here, but in a year, with the opportunities that she's going to get, could she earn 71,000 to jump into that 64? She's at the UK Open. She's at the Slam. The Worlds will be there. Whether she takes it or not is another issue, but the potential money is there. She's going to get Pro Tour
on that World, doesn't it? Like she can get
Pro Tour call-ups.
The draw of playing at the World Championships is so massive. So massive. And while she can go and do it on the Pro Tour Order of Merit and qualify for the World Championships, which is going to be a bit of a stretch, given the amount of players we expect to miss it this year, given the changes to the Euro Tour, etc. So much pins on that World Championships and the draw of being another time World Champion. What's she going? Level with Lisa?
Yeah.
That's big. She's 2 away, which is more than capable in the next 2 years of being back-to-back again and being the second most successful woman of all time in terms of world titles already.
So I think so much hinges, though, on if she does play those Pro Tour events, which we have every reason to believe that she would. If we start to see her, first of all, getting a regular call-up, but then with some degree of consistency, winning matches on tour. I don't mean winning events, but, making board finals regularly. When she, that is demonstrating surely to her that she is and can be competitive at that level. If she can, I think we'll find out over 3-4 months, because it's difficult to talk about things, further beyond that, because I think a lot depends on what happens if and when she does go to those events. Does she mix it up? Is it a bit much? Does she struggle? Does she start bashing people up? It's difficult to predict, but I just think whatever happens next will be because of that, or come out of that anyway.
Yeah, and look, this is an interesting one.
Is the development tour, by the way. She turned 21 just over a week ago on the 9th of January, which means when that cutoff rolls around and you have to be 23 or under, she's going to sneak in for another year. She's going to spend the entire year playing as a 24-year-old, but she's going to be 23 and under as of the first event, I think.
So just a quick one on this. This isn't actually a PDC rule. They've enforced it, but I'm not saying that they haven't but it's not actually their rule. It is a legal ruling as part of the fallout of the split. Now, whether both sides choose to enforce it, whether one chooses to enforce it or vice versa, is completely up to them. But it's not actually a PDC rule. They're just choosing to enforce.
Isn't it the case? You might need to correct me on this, but is it not the case that both sides are currently actively taking a stance that they're enforcing that?
No, what the WDF said they wouldn't enforce it.
Right. Okay.
That was Nick. I can't remember who Nick Rolls said it to. It was in an interview somewhere. He said the WDF wouldn't enforce it. Okay. They had the Tomlin order. Correct, mate. So I can remember what it was called. So it's not actually.
Good job. We've got an expert.
Actually, a PDC rule. It is a legal ruling that they are choosing to enforce.
And choosing is the key point here, by the way, because they could quite easily not. But what they're basically doing is stamping their authority a bit and showing we are the big dogs and we can do whatever and we are going to ruin your world championship in that regard because we can and we will.
Look, that was one of the drawbacks about the WDF going before the PDC. Because when it went after, the PDC Worlds was already done. You had it.
Nobody cared.
Going before, I get why they have, and for their model, it works and fair play to them. But by them doing that, it upsets the bigger party because you're going first. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
So-
I see why they've done it, and I see why they responded. But actually, I don't really agree that it has any sort of negative impact on the WDF. And what you could genuinely do is have somebody win the WDF that's qualified for your tournament, and then 3 weeks later, you've got their world champion in your field. You're not advertising them. You're just going, right, come and see what you can do. When they get bashed up in round 2, you go, well, that's why ours is the best.
But judging by this year's World Championship, they don't get called that anymore. Remember, Stephen Bunting was just the former Lakeside champion.
Lakeside champion.
Barney 5 time, then you can carry on with that shit. If not, introduce him properly.
They didn't even announce what he'd won at the Lakeside. They just said Lakeside winner, didn't they?
Which is a joke, by the way, because the
Won
World
the
Masters
bingo
for a number of years as well.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, agreed.
As was the World Seniors.
Um,
If you're going to keep calling Barney 5, then everybody else that's won a title there needs the respect they deserve of being a world champion. Unless it's Wayne Warren's that one.
I was about to say
where are you, Duff man? Come on.
there is
but yeah, so just going back to that, it's not an actual look. Not saying I agree with it, by the way, because I'd let them play, but it's a legal matter that they're choosing to enforce. It's not actually their rule. But going back to the Challenge Tour itself, look, we saw as well that it is survival of the fittest. These days, they are very, very long, 2 in 1 day. But when we look at the top this weekend, Beau sits top, just over $5,000. Stefan Belmont again had a good weekend, which, and look, I mean this in the nicest possible way, does surprise me because I remember seeing him in Portsmouth and I didn't think he was that good. Do you know what I mean?
He's got better year on year. Like, let's not forget that he's playing from Switzerland. The level of darts there perhaps doesn't quite match that of other regions. There's a few Germans and Dutch lads that nip over the border from what I can gather. He's got better and better. He's won a Group A there in the past. Like, he beat Jimmy Van Schie to qualify for the World Championships. Let's not forget that in that final. And he played bloody well in that as well. He's turning into a very, very steady dart player, and one that actually, I got no doubts, will be on the Pro Tour again at some point.
Yeah, now it might not be this year, but you will be surprised if over the course of the next few years we don't see him on the tour again. He's just got enough, hasn't he? Certainly when you look at some of the players that do get their hands on a card through various different methods, and you think, yeah, he's got more than quite a few of them, so you would expect him to get there at some point.
Yeah, no, 100%. Look, Laban, Leishman, Buness, King, Henderson, Aidan Kirk, Danny Jansen all make up the top 10. So look, across the season, like, I'm not saying the first one because that's unlikely, but as it goes on, we spoke about it, we could see between 10 and 15 call-ups some weekends.
It gets a little bit
Challenge Tour.
It gets a little bit
upset with that list there already, would you? Like, there's some really good talent within there. There's some players that have been there before. There's some that you'd love to see on there. Van Schie is one of those you keep an eye on. Although he's a little bit further down, is he not?
Yeah, but it's only going to take one more weekend of Challenge Tour events before realistically it could be all changed, couldn't it? It could be a complete shuffle. With having those 2 events in a day, there are so many opportunities for people to just go on a bit of a run and pick some up. I think the level of talent, yes, it's very, very high, but I also think in that top end, it's quite close together. I think the top 25 to 30 players over the year aren't too far away from each other, and I think we'll see a lot of shuffling around the pack, and I think we'll see a lot of different players being called up over the course of the year. Yes, there might be 1 or 2 in the top couple of positions that we see very regularly, like we saw with Connor and Wesley last year, but I think we'll see a real mix of players being brought through those call-ups.
Yeah, and like you say, it depends where they are, because as I said in the chat room there, that there are ones in Rosmalen, Hildesheim as well. So it'll be interesting to see who travels, who doesn't. And off the top of my head, I don't know when the Rosmarlin and Hildesheim ones are, but if certain players have got enough ranking money by that point already, let's be fair, they're not going.
Well, I think we're going to see more so than ever before that top level of players managing their diaries, if you like, more than we've ever seen. I think this year will be the most common, I think, in terms of more players. You know, we've had years where we've had 2 or 3 players who have properly managed their diary, looked at events they do and don't want to play. I think that's now going to spread further down that main order of merit, especially with the protection that we've seen come in terms of European Tour events and various other things. I think that we won't have, also we'll have more opportunities because we just won't have that consistent 16 players turning up to Pro Tour events all the time.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, the second one, if Rosmarlin's week or the second batch, they may be there for that. But again, I'm not expecting once those top players have their 15, 16 grand, whatever the projected cut-off is going to be for Minehead, we will see them less and less. Is the thing on that?
Agree.
Back to the Challenge Tour, we diversed a little bit there. Overall thoughts on the Challenge Tour? Do we think we're going to get the same numbers turning up for weekends 2 and 3 now? Because they were always going to be there for weekend 1 because of the carrot that goes with it. Do we see it being as full going forward?
They were and they weren't. Like a lot, the top level are chasing that weekend 1. I think there's also an element of Q School's already very bloody expensive. So you might get the odd player dip their toe back in later on in the year as well. It's just a bit of a strange one, isn't it? It's absolute carnage. The reward is quite small, but the level is pretty solid.
Yeah, I agreed. And well, off the back of that as well, we obviously had the first crop of UK Open qualifiers today. And before we dive into it, is the amateur qualifier dead? Because they're not amateur qualifiers anymore.
No, of course they're not.
When we look at come through today, Tom Sykes, although not got a card, he's all but a professional dart player. And by the way, this isn't a reflection on the players because they are very good players. Graham Hall just come off tour. Graham Usher just come off tour. And didn't know much about Sean Fox. Matador jumped in the chat room. He's a very high-end county player that wins a lot of opens and stuff like that. But
which county do we know?
Sorry? Essex.
Yeah.
It's not Cleveland that are interested.
But at this point, the amateur qualifier it's not amateur anymore. It's pro/semi-pro.
But yeah, this is exactly what we said though. When it first got announced, we basically said, we looked at what it looked like and we said, "There's the Challenge Tour qualifier," and that's exactly what it is. It's the Challenge Tour qualifier, isn't it? You can call it what they want, can't they? But it's ain't amateurs. Well, I mean, yeah. It's not what it used to be. It's not what it could be. It's not what I would like it to be.
Don't think it ever will be either. I get it. There is still the element of you can rock up and do it, but just the attachment to these weekends mean they are heavily bombarded with them. It's a bit like the development tour, isn't it? Like we can call them amateurs all we want, but we know a lot of them earn a living from purely playing darts. But in the PDC's eyes, you're only a professional, i.e. if you're a tour card holder, and half of them aren't fucking full-time. Like the word professional gets mixed up with its true meaning in terms of earn a living from it. With 128 tour card holders, you'll do all the professionals. Everybody else outside that is an amateur. It's a bit like the development tour, isn't it? Like the naming of it is shit. Call it something else if you're going to go down this route because it just doesn't work.
Well, you just call it a qualifier, don't you?
Well,
you don't use the word amateur altogether.
Like you say, the word amateur in there, it's not anymore. Because if I'm just going to get Dart Connects up quickly. So you think, like, I'm looking at qualifier 1 today. Sean Fox and Graham Usher, Tom Sykes, Adam Mould, Chaz Barstow. Again, would you class him as an amateur the way he's hoovered up money in the past?
Yeah, we've got people chucking 109 averages in the
5 years removed from that run at the World Championships. Like, I think he's far enough removed to be an amateur. And even let's not get too confused with what the Riley's qualifiers used to produce. There were a number of these players that used to mop up these consistently. Paul Hogan made something like 7 or 8 appearances because he just qualified from the same Riley's every time. Like, let's not be naive to think we got a story like Barry Lynn or Rob Cross every single year. Some years we sweet nothing. Some years you had Leonard Gates shousing his way through Victorian. Fallon went and won a Riley's qualifier a couple of years ago. Is she an amateur? Definitely fucking not. She's been a professional dart player for the best part of 6
100%. What I'm saying is we don't get them all the time, but we're not getting them at all anymore.
Well, but it wasn't right. I was going to say that we used to point the finger at the Riley's qualifiers and saying it's bullshit. You know, I'm 4 hours away from one in the northeast of England. It's crap.
But to say that
it just could be better.
We're not getting people we've never heard of and we get stories. You didn't know Sean Fox was an hour ago. Like, it has produced.
You might not. He plays for Essex.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter.
I genuinely think
he is a pure amateur in that sense. He is one of 16 players that's going to qualify for the UK Open, and 4 of them might be pure true amateurs in that sense. If you look at the fucking state of the Welsh ones, God knows who's coming through that.
But then, if you look at it, should there be? This was an idea that came up in the chat room on the stream earlier on. Should there be a Challenge Tour qualifier, and then literally should there be 2 or 3 pure amateur qualifiers where if you have played at Q School or the Challenge Tour within the last 2 years, you cannot enter these?
Yes, and we should bring him from the JDC. We should bring him from all sorts of random places because that would make the UK Open more fun. Simple as that. It would make it more special. It would create a much more interesting identity. Let's be honest, it's not going to hurt the big boys because they're just going to beat them, aren't they? And if they don't beat them, they bloody well should have done. So it's tough, isn't it? Like, it's not a threat to anybody. It's just making that tournament more distinctive, stand out more against the others. We could try and attempt to be relatively inclusive of anywhere that's north or east of Manchester. And yeah, it just could be better. It frustrates me because the frustration is, like, well, there's certain formats and certain competitions that we look at, and we'll sit and we'll all agree that the format or the qualification or something isn't perfect and needs to be improved. But then it often seems challenging to redesign that in a way that's logical and sensible and feasible. Whereas this just seems so easy to improve. It seems so easy to put right that I think I find it then more frustrating than a lot of the others because you think, well, how hard can it be to commission if only there were, like, I don't know, like an amateur darts organised. I mean, in order to get the amateur qualifiers, if only there were a system for amateur darts that was right across the nation, and if only they were used to running like regional knockout tournaments. If only, eh?
No, look, I'm with you 100%. That I think there should be 2 qualifying. So the Challenge Tour can have their own qualifier. I've got no issue with that. I want to see Bob the bin man from Rochdale qualifying.
I would also make everyone turn up and play in their normal work gear. So if you've got a postman and a bin man, they should have to play in their normal work gear as well to highlight what an amateur they are. I want to see butchers, bakers, candlestick makers, like in their normal gear playing.
Well, the other thing as well is, we were talking this other day, we're not going to have the red shirts, are we, for the qualifiers? I'm guessing they'll just wear whatever their normal shirts this time around.
But again, I want it to be special. I want it to stand out. Make them special. They've achieved something special. Like, if you are an amateur and you have qualified for among all these other amateurs in the country to play with the elite of the sport. You could be playing Luke Littler or Luke Humphries in round 1. You could be playing Michael van Gerwen on the main stage. Like, make it special. Give them an identity. Make them come out to special music. I don't know. It just could be better. Yeah, I think it's so much easier to make it better.
Interestingly, though, I've just seen something on social media from Martin Grierson, who made the last 16 today, losing out to Tom Sykes. It's a decent run at the second UK Open qualifier today. Well done to Tom Sykes, who went on to qualify for Minehead. A bit disappointed to not be able to enter the qualifier 1, as it was sold out a week and a half ago, and then 46 players don't bother turning up. So I had to sit and watch a tournament which had 46 buys in it.
See what I mean? It's wank.
That's shit.
It's wank.
One of the Wales ones the other day, the pre-qualifiers ran with 23 fucking players, and you've got players sitting there wanting to play in this one, and you've gone, nope, because somebody preempted, so they got fucking
this. And this is the point.
That's poor.
It's just inexcusably poor. Inexcusably poor that this is the qualification for arguably one of the biggest tournaments in the sport. And it's fucking amateur hour. The players are meant to be amateurs, not the people running it. When they say an amateur qualifier, is that because that's who they've got to set it up and run it? Just some lads.
I've run these before.
I
stand by that. Ah, man. Well, but again, but you're not running them now, are you? So they've obviously veered away from competence.
Well, to be fair, wasn't one of those Scott Mitchell?
What, on the buys?
Well, no, that was meant to play and didn't.
Possibly, because he then went on to comms.
That's what I mean, yeah.
The hardest part is getting.
So look, 2025 is the season is upon us. Who are we expecting a big year from, and who needs a big year? I've got two players for each category, and why?
Ooh, right. Who are we? Which way do you want to go first?
Who are you? 2 players that you're expecting to have a big year.
Well,
chat room, you can get involved here as well.
Are we going to be relatively? Are we going to not say the word Luke just because it gets a bit boring? As much as it's it makes it a bit too easy, doesn't it? I am expecting a big year from Stephen Bunting. And I am expecting a big year do I dare say it out loud? No, I probably don't, that one.
Sir James?
No, God, no. No.
I've got 3 for need a good year.
We'll come to that in a minute. Who are you expecting to have good years first?
Connor Scott is so much better equipped to go back on the Pro Tour this year. I've gone a little bit outside. I've got 3 again, to be fair. Connor Scott's 1.
Yep.
Ricky Evans, I think now is the year for Ricky.
I think he's more in the need category than will category.
Not quite. And my 3rd is Ross Smith. Expecting a big year from Ross Smith. Don't think he quite delivered enough last year for the level he's capable of.
I will go. I will follow my Stephen Bunting. I've gone a little bit further up the card than you.
My expectation or need big years are further up.
My need big years are further down, so I think we've probably gone the opposite end on these. So my expect big years are Stephen Bunting and Damon Heta. That I expect big year from different reasons. And one is that I expect Stephen to kick on, like we saw here, and it's a perfect opportunity for him to get that regularity in playing in those arenas every week, Premier League. And I expect him to do. I don't expect him to win it. I expect him to be very competitive all the way through, and I think that then it boosts his confidence. He will become accustomed to beating the best players in the world in a big arena, and he'll do it regularly. And I think that that'll help him in the back end of the year. So I expect a big year from Stephen Bunting. I think Damon Heta, regardless of what he's come out and said, many consider him unlucky to not get that Premier League selection. I think he's been consistently moving through tournaments for the last couple of years where we used to see him at the back end but not at the business end is what I would we see him regularly in the back end of tournaments but rarely in the business end. We see him in last 16s, we see him in quarterfinals, we've seen him in a semi-final last year. I just think it's the natural progression for him. His the last few years have been a pretty steady progression, I think. For Damon, I think he's got a big year. I think he's got something in him this year. I think he's got a win in him, a trophy this year.
I'm going who I think is going to have a big year. I think Wessel has a massive year. And then this is needs, and I think he will. So I'm putting him in the I think Joe Cullen is going to have a big year. I think that rant at the Worlds flicked something in his head. I think he goes on and has a really good year. So I'm going Nyman and Cullen.
Joe Cullen is in my needs a big year.
Oh, I agree. He does need a big year.
He is desperate for a big year. I know he's had off the board issues the last 12 months or whatever, but for me, Joe Cullen has to go and play big darts again and put himself back in top 16, bordering top 8 contention and level. Because if not, he's sort of missed the peak and missed the wave now for me of his career. Bully Boy is another I think needs a big year. Fell a lot last year. That ranking is not going to go well for him in terms of majors because what is he now? Joint 16th with Josh Rock, which means he runs into Luke Humphries or Luke Littler in the fucking seeded rounds every single time. So he needs to get out of that and quickly, or his chances of leaping are going to be very, very slim. And the other one I think needs a big year, just because of the way he spoke at the World Championships. I thought he was a little bit despondent, kind of winding down a little bit. Didn't seem like the fight was in him too much. And if we don't see that from him at the end of the year, think this could well be his last on tour. I think it is that big of a leap. Is Johnny Clayton. I really like Johnny. He had a steady year last year without being exceptional, but the way that he spoke about the World Championships, it's a young man's game, blah, 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 blah. He's more than equipped to drop onto the seniors and play a bit of Super Series, and he's earned his money from darts now and can go and do exhibitions and whatever else. But I think if Johnny's going to stay in the big time, Johnny needs a big year this year, and I back him to be able to go and do so, but I just need to see it from him now.
I think I've tried to, because it's a bit boring if we all just list the same names, isn't it? So I think names like Smith and Cullen, like we know they need a big year because they've achieved huge things in the game. They've lifted trophies, they're Premier League finalists and all this stuff. And they've had a bad year. And yes, they need a good year this year, but we sort of know that their game will come around. You know, they have sort of established themselves as top-level darts players. I've tried to go a little bit different and look a little bit further down the order of merit to point to the players that they're right next to each other in 39th and 40th with Cam Menzies and Callan Ridge. And the reason being is I think for both of those players, what this year potentially does is it's almost confirms what they're going to be as a dart player. Like, I think for both players this year, it confirms, are they going to establish themselves as a top 32 player that regularly wins on television, performs well regularly, and is at that top level of the sport? Or are they going to slide down back from that 40th position in the world? And are we going to see them slide further back down and become sort of nearly men almost, that where they'll be frustrating to their fans because we know on their day they're so capable. But we've seen so many players do it, haven't we? We've seen lots of players come through and achieve almost exactly what they have in the game and then disappear. And I think it's a really important year for both of those two players, because I think this year for both of them establishes what they are as a dart player.
It's that journey from ifs to whens, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, and they're so close, but you worry that if they don't become whens pretty soon, a la Bully Boy, who was pretty much always a when, but started to drift towards more of a, is it going to happen? They might just, if they don't jump into that when category, they might always be an if, and you might always be questioning or wondering, well, we've seen Callum Ridds has got the talent. Can he make that leap? Now that Cameron Menzies is established, we know he's got the A game, but perhaps he just needs to get over that mental block of playing the top players and going, oh, look how good this guy is. I'm just a plumber in the day sort of thing.
I'm not talking about those two, lifting trophies and that it's important. I'm not saying it's an important year for them because they've got to go and pick a trophy up or even make a final. I think it's important for both of them to establish themselves as what they are going to be for the next 5 or 6 years in dart. Are they going to be a top 32 player, established, safe, seeded for events, qualifying for everything? Or are they going to slip away? And I think this is the year we see that for both players. If I'm honest, to finish it, I think they both do it. I think both of them will establish themselves and play well and have a good year. But I think it's a really important year for them both.
I've got a couple. The obvious one is Michael van Gerwen. Needs a good year. I don't often say this, but he needs to win a TV title, in my opinion. He hasn't held one for over a year now.
He had a blip before that as well, didn't he? There was a pretty big run. Like,
it was never this long, though.
It was, because we were talking about his lack of winning the title for over a year at one point as well.
Yeah, this one's now longer. I've looked.
But you think his run at the minute, and then you put the run before that, is saved by a very, very fortunate 6 weeks where he picked up 2 titles. This could be a real big blip, and I don't think anybody's taken that into consideration with Michael for a long, long time now.
I think Michael,
barren that run is, apart from those few weeks in the middle that sort of save it.
I think he needs a good year, in my opinion. Scott Williams, I think, needs a good year. Like, I love Scott as a player. That I think those Premier League nights are made for Scott Williams. The way he stands on that stage, the chest goes out, the way he peacocks across the stage, he owns it, that stage presence.
And he swears in the post-match interviews. What a hero.
TV tournaments are made for Scott Williams. But this year, we didn't see enough of him on TV because his floor game wasn't there. So I think he needs a real consistent year. I think Scott Williams is an incredible player. But I don't want that world semi-final to go down as a fluke. Do you know what I mean?
No, I
think he's better than that.
I agree. It did come. I'm a big fan of Scott, but that run did come from a bit from left field, and then there hasn't been a great deal since to convince the world that was not a fluke. Like, I don't think it was, but he needs to almost prove it. He needs to back it up. I agree.
A lot of time for Scott Williams. A lot of time.
He has a lot to offer the game. As the game grows, and we look towards players with a commercial value. There is an awful lot of commercial value in Scott Williams in a lot of the things that he does, more so than 95% of the tour.
Yeah,
but
Scott is made for these kind of things.
If he's not consistently winning stuff, it'll go to waste. He won't be able to realise that commercial potential, because you can only realise that commercial potential if you win stuff. It's the way of the world.
Aspinall also needs a good year for me. We know last year he went through hell, the injury. He had basically 3.5 months off. But I think he needs a good year, because he'll be defending the match play money this year. Am I correct?
Yep.
As well.
A lot of money to qualify. A lot of money to defend that.
So
when you're already on the slide a little bit from where you're used to being in the rankings, he's dropped out of the top 10 now. He's dropped back to 11th. He's 11th in the world, still carrying that match play money. Once that match play money drops off, it's a long way back up to that.
Yeah, I think what's that?
Just have a look at Michael Smith.
Yeah, this is what I mean.
It's a long way back. It's a long way back once that, and you're in that position there where you ain't getting back in the top 10 unless you pick a trophy up. It's the only way to get back.
Wow, I didn't realise that.
Well, but we've said it. We've looked at it for like last year, all year. We look and we say, well, he's not going to be here. He's not going to be there. He just qualified for. Did he qualify for Minehead just?
This year, just
this
yeah.
Year he did last year
in round one.
Yeah, year before he didn't. Only just qualified for Minehead. Like it's not a surprise that, but
I think this is
bringing on to automatic passage into round 2 on the Euro Tour, which is still the most stupid fucking change I've ever made.
I think the Masters this year is being underappreciated, how much of a free hit this is for players, because there's no ranking money to defend. This is free ranking money for 2 years. That this could get players up and running in the early part of the season.
Yeah, and some of them need it, Dimitri van den Berg and Michael Smith aren't going to the match play at the minute.
One of them's a bonus.
Well,
if he ruins my UK Open 2 years in a row, somebody's getting murdered on that drive home.
But so those players aren't at the match play at present. You only got so many opportunities, and there's only so many opportunities to pick up lumps of money. You're either going to have to be very consistent very quickly, or you need to go and grab something. You need to go and get your hands on a lump very quickly. And this is, like you say, Phil, it's a free hit. There's nobody defending. Like, you can just go and grab some money and stick it on your ranking. And there's some players really need it quickly.
Oh, 100%.
I will top off and sacrifice a farmer's cow to the darting gods if he wins again, so that we never have to do that.
So yeah, this is kind of huge. The start of the year, you've got the Masters now ranked, the UK Open, then your Pro Tours and Euro Tours. You need money on the board to relieve pressure, because although there's more money in the back end of the season with TV tournaments create more pressure. So relieve that pressure. If you're a Michael Smith, for instance, and I'm not picking on Bully Boy here, I'm just using him as an example. If he can, in this first half of the year, say he gets to a Masters semi-final, a UK Open quarter-final, and picks up a Euro Tour title, all of a sudden that's a huge chunk of money it is early on in the season.
It is, and it's very much needed, and because there's a lot of money on offer at the back end of the year, but that money's only on offer if you're in the tournament. Some of these lads aren't qualifying for the. They're looking at the money that's available at the back end of the season, and some of them are defending money at those tournaments at the back end of the season, and they're not even qualified for them.
Yeah,
they need to get a move on some of these lads, and they need to do it quickly.
So, friend of the show, Anthony, is in the chat room. How you doing, my friend?
Happy birthday for the other day, Saturday.
All the best. Big deal over there today.
we will see some more of Anthony on the channel as the year goes on. No
I
doubt.
thought we chatted nonsense. Jesus Christ. That man's in charge of
Jumping on a
going
few fallouts, no doubt. Big fan of the fallout is Anthony. We've got 16 of them for the Premier League to do.
I'm looking forward to the Thursday night regular. Like, it is a challenge being there. Like, we know when we get, some like a big event like the way that goes on, and we've got fallouts every day. It's tough amongst the team to keep up with that pace and get it filled every night and everything else. But that lovely sort of every Thursday chat about what's gone on, and it is a lovely part of the year for us. I can't wait for that Premier League fallout. That's why I like the Premier League so much.
I'm working a lot of Thursday nights now.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Whilst we're still on 2025, we've not finished this yet. Who do we have a surprise winner of a TV tournament this year?
More surprising than the last 2 years.
Well, 2024 was the year of the underdog. Agreed. Do we have, in your opinion, a surprise winner again? If so, who and what?
Depends what you class as a surprise, because
That's up to you.
I'm not sure I'd be surprised anymore.
This is the problem.
Do you know what? There are two players that would genuinely surprise me if they won a TV tournament. And they're the only two I think that can possibly do this now. Dave Chisnall and Ian White. Anything else I'm here for and I can accept. But if either of those two even attempt to win a TV tournament and pull it off, then I would genuinely be surprised.
Well, the things that could happen and would surprise me is it could happen and it would surprise me if Peter Wright won something, or he could, but it would be a surprise. Likewise, James Wade, like, it could happen, but it'd be a surprise. I don't think we'll see a first-time winner outside the top 16. So if you consider someone in the top 16 of a sport winning a trophy in that sport a surprise, then you must be relatively easy to surprise. I'd like to throw you a party. Yeah, I don't think we'll see someone from outside the top 16 lift the trophy this year.
I'm just checking where this person I'm thinking of is.
He is currently...
Oh, no.
10th.
No.
Yep, 10th.
So, don't laugh. I think through what he's been through to where he's got back to, we saw spells.
I know what he's going to say.
At the back end of last year.
I nodded off earlier when we had to talk about it.
I think Dirk could win one.
Oh, that wasn't what I expected. I didn't think that's what you were building to then. I thought we were getting a Gary.
No.
He had to scroll a lot further. Once he'd gone past 14, I was like, oh, yeah, it can't be him.
No, I think Dirk. Now, don't get me wrong. There was a drop-off at the Worlds where he said it himself. I ran out of energy, ran out of steam. But that first set and a half, the level was incredible. We saw it on the Euro Tour. That level is getting back there. If he can sort out and get himself practicing again like he was, I've just seen enough to say that level is still in Dirk. Before he got injured, let's be fair, Dirk was one of the best players in the world before he got injured.
And the level was there, and I sort of agree where you're going, but he's also creeping into the Dave Chisnall and White category for me, where when things get a little bit tight, Dirk gets even more erratic, which I wasn't sure was possible, and things start to go awry.
You've been banging the Dirk drum for about a year now, and he's made a fool of you ever since. And
before the injury, I was on the Dirk drum for about 3 years, but I'm just not on it anymore.
I'm still yet to see any evidence that tells me, like since the injury, that he able to reach a level and sustain it that can be competitive at the highest level in these tournaments, because you are going to have to beat players at such a high level so consistently. I just don't think it's there. You're right, though. It would surprise me. So in terms of would it be a surprise, I'll grant you it. You would surprise me.
Oh, yeah. Look, I'd love to see Durkee win one.
I wouldn't, because then we'd have to listen to the music twice, because they'd play it at the bloody end as well.
Don't get me wrong, it is shocking. I'm with you there.
I've no time for it. I want more thought to go into. I had, so I was driving the car the other day, like dead quick for you, and I had the music on shuffle, and the song "Bulletproof" came on, and I thought to myself, why is not? Because I'm into that. I want to see dynamic walk-ons. I want to see people pick a walk-on to suit what's going on. Why has nobody come out to play against Stephen Bunting and walked out to Bulletproof? Surely that's why are people not doing that more?
As in LaRue, not the actual Bulletproof that he walks out to.
Yes, the LaRue remix. He comes out to Titanium.
Yeah. But it says I'm Bulletproof in the song, doesn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
But I want someone to... He's the bullet. Him being bulletproof is irrelevant. He's the bullet. Someone else... It's the other bloke that needs to be bulletproof, doesn't it? Like, I want to see that.
That's how I put it in our chat earlier as well. And I know, God...
Same as, and I'm really sorry to cut you off, the next time he comes out to Mr. Brightside, all I want to see on the other side is "Hello Darkness, my old friend." I want people to start playing walk-ons off with each other.
I put it in our chat earlier and I shared it on Twitter. The drone shots. I want drone shots in darts.
Yes, more drones. I see what I want as well. Every single darts event, I want to see an empty and full arena fly through. I want to see a fly through an empty arena followed by a fly through full arena. Like, there's far more can be done with that.
I want to see the drone hovering as they're going for a double.
If you try a fly through with a drone with darts fans in the room, the first thing anybody's going to do is launch a fucking point at it.
No, it's not. The first thing that's going to happen is some twat's going to whinge about the draft that the helicopter blades are making, and it's affecting their darts, and then they'll walk off the stage in a huff because it's created a draft.
Do you know what we're doing, drone? But we can't exactly do a fly through the office because it's just one room.
I'll tell you what, I'm loving this. Mr. Spellman is in the chat room. Congratulations as well, buddy. He says, I love the idea of changing songs based on circumstances.
I'm glad someone's got honesty. It's a thing.
I've always thought that if I played Mervyn King, I used Metallica's King. Love that.
So, like, Alex has completely got what I'm trying to get at. Like, certainly if you're playing against someone that's got an established, almost, branded, part of their image, like, find a walk-on song that almost like digs back at it. That's like what, and people should be using Anything About Fire when they come out to play Gerwyn Price, or because I want those songs I want that to be the start of this like battle.
How far are we taking this shithousery? Because at this point,
to the car park, ideally.
No, at this point as well, I'm thinking mind games here. Alex qualifies for the world. Sorry, Alex, I'm using you here because you're in the chat room.
He's in there.
You draw Michael van Gerwen in round one. You get a lime green shirt made with your logos on it. Could you imagine how much that would piss people off if you start, or if you play Chizzy, you go yellow.
Right. The greatest of all time tried this in a final and got changed after 5 sets because he felt like a knobhead.
But
it's possibly the most famous World Championship final ever. If you want to repeat the mistake, you crack on.
I was like, how far are we taking this? Because this would be incredible.
I want a dynamic approach. I'm willing to offer myself out there as a walk-on music consultant.
Yeah, you need to finish that sentence a lot quicker. If we were big enough, people would be editing that out of context and going, Dan's offering himself out again.
He's in the Premier Inn.
100%. I am down for this absolute shithousery as we try and grow the sport. And I said last year, and I can't remember, it might have been you that agreed. Last year, we had too many fist pumps, too many hugs, too many well dones during games. Stop it.
Oh, Sam, don't give me that. I've spent 2 years saying that Kessie needs to come out to the Cold as Ice remix by MOP. Listen to it and you'll agree immediately. It's the only song he should be coming out to.
Yeah, but players have been too nice and they just need to stop it.
I don't know. I think there is a time and a place for it. But as in there's a time and a place for, angry, snarling. But I think it's become too much when we're having to fist pump high five every time someone throws a 140. It's sort of it's almost become pub darts level where, every time someone chucks a ton, we all have to acknowledge it. It seems like we're going too far.
Oh, sorry, we're not talking about Roman Reigns.
We're not acknowledging it.
Dan got it straight away.
That's what we've got time for tonight for expenses.
But
23 minutes.
Could you imagine? I want full Roy Keane. He's at a 180. He's done his job.
Yeah.
What are we fist pumping him for?
That's what he's here for. He's also just took bread off your kid's table. So pack in like that.
And to be fair, who was it that ignored the 9 darter? And I was bang up. What's that?
Wade.
Again, fully behind that as well.
No, Wade ignored it when he hit his, didn't he? Just going around. I remember Van Gerwen sort of half ignored Kyle's in the European Championship.
There was one last year. There was one.
Not the only thing he's ignored in the last year, is it, Phil? I think you're on that list as well, aren't you?
That's it. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Killington literally just went up to start the next leg. Fully behind that. Right, what else have we got? Someone asked about Gary in the chat room. So this was the first one. How significant was the injury? The injury was significant. Look, Gary, if Tommy as manager hadn't have told the media, we'd never have known this because that's not Gary. I spoke to him on, I think it was the 2nd of January maybe, and he was just like, his line was, "I just played shit, and that's all people need to know." He didn't want people to know. So look, it was significant. I spoke to him a few weeks ago, about 10 days ago. Still sore, not throwing the darts into the Worlds, but hoping to be fit for the Masters.
It's a long time to not throw a dart, that, isn't it? If that's what you do for a living.
So
it might not be for him. You've got more insight than I have, but it feels like a long time.
Gary's one of those that could just rock up and throw. Remember when he had that, was it 6-week hiatus and then come back and won a Pro Tour?
It's not normal, that, is it?
No.
It's not normal.
It's
amazing, but it's not normal.
Well, he basically had nearly 2 months off PDC darts, come back and won a Pro Tour. It was like bonkers.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, it's getting there, but yeah, he should be. He should be fit, and he was chatting to him. He was excited and looking forward to the year. Chris, I don't think the PDC can until the people that have banned him have announced it, because it's not. I don't know if it's a DRA ban or a UK anti-doping ban. I don't know which one authorises this ban in this situation. Whether it's the DRA or UK anti-doping.
Surely just refer to the press release they made about it, Phil. I assume they're not behind in posting the news of decisions they've made, are they?
What, the DRA?
Organisations such as them. Yeah, they'll be on the ball, won't they?
Still on their Christmas party. They fucking earned enough for it.
Yeah.
Oh, That's 4. That
Back
might
to like I thought we'd dealt with amateur ran nonsense for the evening, but no, we have to come around to it again.
So yeah, look, until it's been announced by the authorities, then we don't know. But look, the giveaway will be when we see the Masters qualifier next week.
Yes.
Correct.
We can't really say more than that.
I'll tell you pretty quickly what the situation is.
Discipline is the DRA, but failing a drugs test is a different thing altogether.
Yes.
Because those tests are carried out by UK anti-doping.
Yes.
That's why I said I'm not sure if it's the DRA or UK anti-doping that deal with it. But yeah,
more on the topic of things that aren't announced but are announced and whatever else.
I'm talking about the shirt.
It's fucking hideous. It is the worst design thing I've ever seen in my life. Hypothetically, if I'd managed to see this ahead of its launch, fuck me with the absolute state. I cannot believe people have signed that off.
What we're talking about?
The new dart shirt that was leaked on social media today.
Oh Christ!
I'm not on next week when it's going to have been officially announced because that comes on Wednesday. So I thought I'd just get my 2 pence in now and go, what the fuck is that?
I thought I'd seen the worst one I could see, like in the last year, and it's managed.
Honestly, it makes Dimitri Van den Bergh shirt look tasteful.
Yeah, it's offensive, isn't it?
It's still not the worst dart shirt ever.
Go on.
It is.
I'm trying to find a picture of. I remember Corey Cadby had an absolute stinker. Oh, here we. I think this is the one. This is right up there. 2 seconds. Let me just save this image and upload it. This is one of my pet hates. Oh, it's a web image. 2 seconds. Just talk amongst yourselves.
All right, whatever. I don't know how many entries are into the seniors. I don't get told until the Wednesday before, which is next week. So,
when are those
countries represented this time? Though that's all I have seen. So,
when are those qualifiers taking place?
Next weekend. 2 on the Saturday, 1 on the Sunday.
So, whilst I'm just converting this file, whilst we're on this subject, what is your worst dart shirt? Chat room get as well.
The one that's just been leaked.
Well, other than that, the one that's it is the current Dimitri Van den Bergh shirt, because I still haven't worked out what that base colour is. It's sort of like a
baby puke,
grey beige, like if greige was a colour, like a sort of. It's just distasteful.
Right, this one is an absolute shocker.
Oh,
that is naughty, isn't it?
I'm
just not sure though whether that's not. I think sometimes you can excuse things like that when the goal is to be distasteful. You know, like Gary's shit, like Gary's shite shirts. You know, like the point of them was to be distasteful. It's when the point isn't. You know, that's when it becomes an offensive shirt to me. Is when it's not supposed to be, but it is. Actually, I'm going to argue back on that again. That the James Wade shirt is in no way distasteful because I still retain a very precious part of the sport that is being kept alive by a handful of players, just a handful of players of a traditionally buttoned shirt. And James is one of the last bastions of that, along with Gary and along with Steve Beaton and a couple of others that just retain that buttoned up proper shirt, and I think anyone that's sticking with that should be respected.
What other shit shirts have we got that we can remember?
I don't really know, but look, just in case you're new here and you haven't heard this rant before, here is my quick fire guide to designing your own dart shirt. There are two things that should absolutely never ever be on your dart shirt. One, a dartboard. You're playing darts with darts in your hand. We are fully aware of what fucking sport you are playing. You do not need a dartboard on your dart shirt. You don't see footballs on a football shirt or rugby balls on a rugby shirt. Dartboards, no. Be more creative. Come up with something else. The second one is your face.
Even if you're Ricky Evans.
Even if you're Ricky Evans, although that one is quite comical and as a caricature, your face absolutely 100% does not need to be all over your gut. We can already see it on top of your fucking neck. Do not put it on your dart shirt. There is absolutely no need for it. There are so many good designers out there, so many independent companies out there, so many different ways of designing a dart shirt in modern times. Absolutely 100% you do not need and should never have, and I will ridicule you if you have either of these things, for putting your actual face or a dartboard on your dart shirt. You have been warned. In fact, we should start a club. Like, if you see somebody, I'm going to start a bully circle. If you see somebody in your local league playing darts in their own shirt that has their own face on it, or a dartboard that isn't just generic design they bought off somewhere, send it to us on Twitter and I will start a fucking hall of shame.
Yes. See, the problem in this is that I will give you some credit here, because I think this is a subject on which I will, credit where it's due, give you because I'll give you some credit, because I think that your dart shirt from when you were having a chuck at a good level was particularly well designed, particularly well aligned to your nickname, and I thought it was a particularly good one.
If anybody's out there, just to jump on this, by the way, I want similar design, but in a reffing capacity, because I'm quite casual when I call. Like, I don't want to be in a full shirt get-up. But what I do need when I do events such as next Monday is a specific reffing shirt. So if there is a company out there that want to design me a specific reffing shirt or know how to get in touch or whatever, drop me a message.
But sorry, while you were ranting, I remembered the worst one. And we talked about it last week. It's Joe Cullen's playing shirt. It's the worst dart shirt in history because it contains offensive material.
Joe Cullen's?
It's got a Man United badge on it.
All right.
Therefore, wank.
I'm also, this is more of a personal touch, and you can put this on your shirts if you really do insist. But I'm not really a fan of kids' names on the collars. And I'm sorry if that makes me a little bit Scrooge, but it's just the thought that all of a sudden, especially as dart shirts become more mainstream and more available to buy, etc., that Dave from the pub is wandering around with your 4-year-old's name on his fucking neck.
And they're not generally on the replica shirts for sale, though, are they? I think they're generally on the playing shirts rather than.
But it's just a bit.
Yeah, it depends if you're giving your kids cool names or not.
Ever want the genuine, as close to possible, this is what the player wears kind of shirts, and at that point, you just got their kid's name on your wall or something.
Depends what you've called your kids, don't it? Like if I put my lads on there, they're called Bill and Ted. That's cool. Like, that's all right. It doesn't.
I'm just uploading another 2 shirts here.
Thank me for putting their name on a shirt, but like the lads probably would.
I don't think Gob, you'll remember these 2. You may do. So, Mr. Taylor had 2 shockers from back in the day.
He's had a few, really, hasn't he?
Number 1,
yeah,
where he put himself on it.
Awful.
Pompous.
Number 2, look at that.
Oh, that's even worse. That is not a nice shirt at all, is it? Oh, Philip.
There's a lot going on there. That zip needs to be up higher. That hairline's clinging on. Like, come on, Phil. And it's not the best looking trophy in the world either.
But look at the big picture of himself on there.
Yeah. Nah. And there's a fucking dartboard underneath it. Put it back up. Put it back up.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, if you want to go back, classic Phil.
Dartboard on it.
He's got dartboard and a picture of himself.
Shoot the man.
But if you want to go back classic Phil and you want to go like 89, 90, like some of them were naughty, but they were of the time as well, weren't they? Because there was some.
Oh, remember the blue and red sparkly shirt that he
it was
had?
the blue sequin ones with the sewn on yellow lightning bolts. Like that was quite special. That was quite, I mean, naughty, really naughty. That.
Oh, I'll tell you what. Let's open up question time as well. God, this one's for you. Drop him a message.
Ooh.
There you go. I do particularly like your previous one.
Yeah, I've still got it somewhere. It just doesn't fit. In fact, is it there?
Yes, the Bob Anderson tassels. Do you remember it?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. Anything with tie like that. Yeah, bring back tassels. Nico wearing a tie. Like, I was all for that. Nico wearing a tie was good.
Yeah, Harrington waistcoat.
Something that just distinguishes you as well from, being a little bit different to everybody else is never a bad thing.
No, I've got a couple of uni ones there, but not my playing one. Must be in a drawer somewhere.
Bobby George nipple pocket.
Yeah, well, the less said about that, the better. If you go to a manufacturer and ask them to put nipple pockets in your shirts, I can tell you from experience, they normally just inform the authorities.
Yeah. Drive.
There's a chap coming earlier, and you might want to be aware of him.
Yeah, I know Vegas happened this weekend, but I didn't see anything of it. Only the results on Facebook.
David Cameron back at the lakeside. Go on, the boy.
Yeah. So yeah, go on then, everyone. Get your questions in. We've got about 6 minutes of question time. So let's see if we can annoy Gob. Oh yeah, JDCQ score. I didn't see any of it, but there was some crazy numbers posted again.
The kids are taking over. I see Let's Pays who's got a card. I think Jaden Walker got one as well. They're 12 and 13 years old, for Christ's sake. Like, some serious talents.
Yeah, some big numbers. I didn't see a lot. I did see, but what I saw more, and this says more about the age that I've got now, was more like the mums and dads of people who had their, sticking stuff on Facebook and things like that. It seemed that the feedback was very positive, not just about the obviously the level. We can all see how good the level was, but just about how things were run as well. The way that the events ran, everybody seemed to be speaking very highly of it. So it sounded like a good do all around. The Owl had a bit of a victory.
14 games on the spin.
Played lovely. Monday morning, he walks in, he went, played county the weekend, wish I hadn't, played shit, this isn't going to go very well, woe is me. Finishes second in Group A, absolutely smashes the rest of the week. It's so difficult being as brilliant and as talented as Richie Houghton, isn't it? Like, the man can do absolutely everything.
Yeah, Adam, I don't know the reason why Vincent pulled out. Haven't heard, so I don't know.
Me neither. I just know he did.
Yeah. Ron says, how about Bowen Fallon doubles spot in the World Cup? I'd be down for that.
If you don't see it there, then I'm sure I could have a conversation. There is an International Pairs Week at the Moda Super Series in this year scheduled in. The
difficulty with that is it just doesn't fit the format. They're both representing England, aren't they? So do you have a Dutch? Do you have a Dutch female pairing? Do you have where do you draw the line?
Just there, I think, because they're talent left. Yeah, Chris Bradley messaged me last week going, why is Vincent pulled out? And I genuinely had him convinced that the Mafia were after Vince.
I mean, it's not a stretch, is it?
Oh.
I was like, oh yeah, shady business deal in Amsterdam. He's gone into hide.
It's it. I would say that if that was the situation with a shady deal, that it'd definitely be the opposite way around, and the Mafia would have gone into hiding from Vincent. I would have thought. It's more likely that the Dutch Mafia are hiding because Vincent's fucking furious with them.
That's right up there with convincing somebody in the past who didn't know what sarcasm was for 4 days straight.
Connor, the Super Series is on Pluto TV now. It's still free. All you've got to do is just get the Pluto TV app, and it's free on there.
Yeah, there's a few questions there, so I'll just pick up on that one now. So Pluto TV now has an exclusivity deal in certain regions. So that includes the UK, Austria, Denmark, possibly Germany. I'll be honest, I don't know the full list off the top of my head. But what that means is if you're in one of those countries, you have to watch the Moda Super Series now via Pluto TV. The plan is for all regions where there isn't an exclusive deal with Pluto, i.e. Pluto doesn't exist yet or isn't available, that will be shown on YouTube as usual. However, at the moment, there are a couple of technical issues with that. So it's being broadcast on the Moda Super Series Facebook page. So you can still watch along as live at the moment via the Moda Super Series Facebook page. So if you're not already, jump over there, like and follow, etc. And after the sessions, they're being re-uploaded as premieres, so you can watch as live, but obviously you'll miss out on being able to do things like bet in play on them.
So there you go. There's that one.
In-house expert.
So yeah, Ireland is included in that. Ireland will be available to watch on YouTube once they get the technical issues sorted, but in the meantime, you can watch it on Facebook.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I'm gutted about this. That would have been incredible.
Oh, that's annoying.
Oh, that would have been sensational.
That's
Oh,
yeah, that's disappointing, isn't it?
yeah. Just out of interest, Alex, because I know that are you going to come back and have a go at Q School like next year? Is this a year of rebuilding everything and then going to have a go next year? But yeah, the Super Series, it's still free. Still get to watch it.
Yes.
Have we all seen the old Darts Wife documentary? If you haven't, it is on YouTube. Please go and watch I think it's called Darts Wags. It is genuinely incredible television.
What is this?
Have you never seen this?
No, I've not seen this, mate.
What?
If it's only on YouTube, you know the difficulty.
It wasn't ITV. It was on ITV years ago, and someone's uploaded it to YouTube so you can watch it. It is incredible.
It has passed me by. It's not one that's been on my radar. I am stuck in this Premier Inn in Bolton for a few days, though. Is it worth me picking up? Is it worth me picking that up while I'm here, feeding back later in the week?
Lionel Sam's missus, I don't know, ex-missus or whatever, because his nickname was the Lion. She's there getting promotional shots of him outside the MGM Grand in Vegas. Honestly, it is so good.
Well, I'll check that out. I'll check it out this week.
Who the fuck is Joe Hendry?
Do you not believe?
Alex, that's cool, mate. That's cool.
What, in fairies, Dan? It's not fucking Peter Pan, mate. Grow up.
Was it second star on the right?
Every time you say that, a professional wrestler loses his wings.
Oh, no. It's all right. They'll rewrite it back in. Someone did ask if I turned 30 yet. By the way, yeah, I did on Friday, so thank you.
Yes, he did.
We're growing up now. Anyway.
Everyone, I'll tell you what, I've absolutely loved tonight's show. It's been superb. This will be available as an audio only in the morning, so make sure you check that out. Plenty of content coming your way, plenty in the back ends. Doing 2 interviews tomorrow as well, which will be good. Then we'll have the stuff from Holland as well. So plenty coming your way, peoples.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah. But remember, if you haven't yet, make sure you drop us a follow, especially here on YouTube. Almost going to hit 41K, which will be cool. All social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, you name it. We have accounts there. So plenty coming your way. But I've been Phil Bars, Jack Garwood, Dan Simpson. We are signing out, and we'll see you all very, very soon.